Good evening, everyone. I just want to say that I really appreciate all the love and all the support. And I know this is a little bit of a shorter one, but rest assured that the stories are just as good as they always are. Hope you have a fantastic time listening. For the last few weeks, I have felt a presence in my room every night. With the lights on, off, I've been able to almost follow it around the room while burning sage because its feeling is so strong. I have noticed it likes to hang out in one particular top corner of my room. It has felt like an invisible barrier of thick air, and when you cross it, your hair stands up all on end. I also think I might see something in the corner of my eyes a lot. I'm pretty sick of it. I have had something like this in my old house a while back for months, but it was accompanied with nightmares. The odd nonverbal sounds, but this time, it doesn't seem so sinister. But it is pretty annoying as I don't know what it is, or what it wants, and why it wants to hang around my room and in my bed at night. I notice it seems more active when the lights are off. And even though my brother isn't sensitive to these things, whatever it is, doesn't seem to hang around unless I'm alone. I have tried clearing with white sage and telling it to leave. It hasn't worked. Does anyone have any ideas on how to move it or how to level up to be able to clear it myself? This happened to me when I was about 7 or 9 years old. Can't really remember my exact age. I live in Edmonton, Ab, but my dad's side of the family is from Cold Lake. One Friday evening, my dad decides he wants to go to Cold Lake for the weekend. So my whole family gets in the car and we drive up there and go to my Kokum's house to spend the night. That night, I had a weird dream. I dreamt that I was on a gravel road, surrounded by trees, and in the distance, along the road, I see my cousin's house. I saw no other person or animal, and I had the sense that it was nighttime, but I could see perfectly in the dark. I then walk up to the house to the back door, wait there for a moment, and walk back down the road where I came from, but I then take a left turn into the bush. I see a footpath. Follow that for a short distance, and I saw what looks like a big dog house, and I enter it, and that's when the dream ends. The next day, my dad tells me that he's going to visit his sister and invites me to come, knowing that I love playing with my cousin. We are traveling to her house, and right before we get there, my dad stops his truck because he just saw a moose in the bush and wants to check it out. So I'm standing on the gravel road and I see my cousin's house in the distance, and I decided that I didn't want to wait for my dad, so I told him that I'm walking to the house. I walk up to the house, was greeted by the dogs, and saw my uncle chilling by the back door. I then approach him, greet him, and ask where my cousin is. Just then, my cousin comes running from around the house, sees me, and says, "Hey cuz, want to see my new fort?" I excitedly agree, and he leads me back down the road, close to where we stopped, and we take a left into the bush and follow a footpath. When we were on the footpath, I think to myself, I bet it's the same house. Is it the same one I saw in my dream last night? And sure enough, it was. I then had a huge deja vu feeling, but quickly put it out of my mind and entered the house. That's my actual projection story. It's not very scary, but it's the truth. The only difference from my dream and reality was that there was no animals or people in my dream, and it was sunny. At the time, I never knew about astral projection or deja vu, and it would be years later when I learned about these concepts. I'm going to recount a story that happened about 6 years ago when I was living with my parents in my family home. The strangeness started as I was driving down the main back road to get back to my house that connected my hometown to a neighboring town that had some of my friends lived in. It was roughly 10 p.m. and I was following a friend back to my home. He had gained quite the lead on me and maybe arrived at my house 5 or 6 minutes before I did. The road itself is called Tyree Springs and is a hilly, snaking back road with an incline on one side and a descent on the other. I've driven on this road thousands of times, if not more, throughout my teenage years leading up to this. I was driving along. I noticed a blue light following behind me, almost like a motorcycle light. Important to note that it was early November and maybe 50 degrees outside. This doesn't rule out the motorcycle, but it would strike me as odd for someone to be riding that late at that temperature. At the time, I had a junky first gen DSM with an exhaust. As I was trying to figure out what was behind me, I pushed the clutch to maybe catch a sound of a motorcycle or something. Silence. Absolutely nothing but road noise. This had spooked me a little bit, so I had dropped a gear and sped up about 65 miles per hour to get some distance. When I looked back, I saw the light had been decently far behind me. I look again, and in my rear view only to see that the light is right on my bumper, even closer than it had been before. I was extremely scared and proceeded to accelerate up to about 85 miles per hour. And as I was rounding the long sweeping right-hand turn, I looked back and saw the light stop on top of the hill to the hill I had just come down and darted right. Not in a motion of something turning into a driveway or anything like that, just a light accelerating to the right. To this day, I have no idea what it was, but it spooked me beyond belief. So, I have had experiences a few times now, but the last time was so vivid, I had to try to get an explanation. I Googled, but found nothing that really matched, so I decided to throw a Hail Mary here and see if anyone had a similar experience. I woke up with an image of a face visible on my retina, exactly like if you were to stare hard at an object for a while and close your eyes hard. The object gets stuck on your retina. It's apparently called an after image. I found out after Googling a bit, but there were no results for having an after image of random faces. Let me describe the experience in some detail, and please let me know if you've had something similar happen to you. I woke up feeling stressed, like I had a nightmare, and his face was clearly visibly burnt in on my retina. It was a pitch black in the room, and I sort of panicked and quickly turned on my bedside lamp. But even with the light on and my eyes open, I could still make out the face. After a few seconds, the panic subsided, and I actually got curious, so I closed my eyes hard to try and see the face more clearly, and it was still really clear. Even after what I think was about 20 seconds, the face was slightly Asian looking, pretty expressionless, quite handsome to be honest, but I started freaking out again after seeing it, so I think there was something strange about the face, but I can't really say why. Maybe if I had focused a bit longer, I would have seen why. It's happened before, but It just has been silhouettes, so I've passed it off as just weird. But those few times before I felt the same kind of stress feeling waking up, like waking up from a nightmare in cold sweat. I don't want to make any assumptions about why this happened, but I really want to see if anyone has had a similar experience. In general, my house has too much paranormal activity, especially around 3 to 5 in the morning, which I usually am awake because I'm a night owl. My house is new. It was built in 1995. It wasn't built on a graveyard or something, but for some reason, me and my brother experienced some weird stuff around the house from time to time. So, it was Saturday morning around 5:30. I was doing my project for one of my classes at my university. I was really exhausted, but I was trying to finish it because I had to give it to my teacher on Sunday. So I finished my project, and then I went downstairs to get some water. I was in a rush because I was really happy that I finished my project, and I was finally able to get to bed. I went downstairs, but I didn't turn on any lights because, what would happen at 5:30 in the morning? I got myself some water. I was holding my glass, and as I stepped on the stairs, I heard a loud bang. Usually, we hear those noises because they are made out of wood, and in the morning it's usually colder, so they make that cracking sound. So, I heard that noise, and it actually felt like someone hit something, but it felt weird. Like it wasn't a hit of a person, like someone would hit something. And I immediately stopped moving. I felt like someone was staring at me, and that it hit somewhere in my house just to get my attention, so I would turn around and look at it. There was a cold breeze that was coming from my left, from the living room where I heard the noise. It felt like someone was going to attack me, or jump towards me, or, in general, wanted to hurt me. Immediately, my instincts kicked in, and I was like, okay, don't do anything. Literally, anything. Just run. Run. Go upstairs immediately without looking. It was my first time having that weird instinct. It was like my life was about to end there. I ran upstairs, got in my room, and closed my door. I took a look at my mirror in the room, and I felt a little bit sick. Then I felt like I had a runny nose for some weird reason. There was blood coming from my left nostril. I usually have those when I am really angry or if something really terrible had happened to me. I cleaned my nose and sat on my bed, and I couldn't fall asleep because of the incident. That night, I kind of slept with the lights on. I hope that no one will ever experience the same thing as I did. Imagine not feeling secure in your own house that you grew up in. I'm here to share another paranormal experience that gave me the chills. My girlfriend and I went to go into my garage to do some laundry. I do not want to confuse anyone, but in Florida, where I live, we do not have basements. We have a washer and a dryer in my garage. Back to the story. We have 2 mirrors in our garage, and they belong to my Nana, who passed away. My girlfriend happened to notice that the mirrors are facing each other like a vortex, and we know that mirrors shouldn't be facing each other. So my girlfriend said, "Why are the mirrors facing one another?" I looked at her and I said, "Wait, vortex? I don't like mirrors at all." After my last experience, I don't know how I did not notice the mirrors were facing each other. My girlfriend turned to me and said, "Do you see that blue light coming through the mirror?" I nodded, yes. Mind you, there's no light that is blue or nothing. No lights at all. People usually say mirrors are portals so spirits can cross to our world. When I saw that blue light, I had a pit in my stomach as we covered them with blankets. We have a door for when you go outside. The doorknob was rattling like someone was trying to come in or go out. I felt so lightheaded and had such a bad headache. This was at 3:30 a.m., so there was no one outside trying to come in. I yelled, "You're not welcome here. Please leave." My girlfriend looked at me and said, "Why would you say that?" That's when I realized I fucked up. So we left the garage when we went into the room to get ready for bed. Now my fan randomly broke. As I was getting into bed, there was a loud tapping noise on my window. My girlfriend looked at me saying, "Don't. Just look and ignore it." So I did what I was told. Then I heard bells. I asked her, "Do you hear that?" She responded, "No." My cat started to growl, and all I could say is, "I don't know what is going on. Why is this happening?" As I'm writing this, my hands are shaking, and I feel as if someone is watching me. Can someone please explain what's going on? Because I'm terrified, and I know they can sense fear. I just need an explanation. I feel like I pissed this spirit off. For the last few years, there's been an increased activity of unusual footsteps appearing to stalk the same corridor in my house. At first, the steps simply passed through. Then, they would start to linger outside my occupied room. Sometimes, I swear the presence would too occasionally knock. Every time I would ignore these occurrences, and the presence would disappear. But they began to get more frantic, jogging and pounding at the door, until I always had to leave it firmly barricaded. One evening, I was in the bathroom, door firmly locked, home alone, when it occurred again. This time, the being seemed to sprint through the hall, pounding at the door as usual, except this time, it actually attempted entering, jiggling the handle. It disappeared and hasn't happened since. I checked the house cameras vigilantly and haven't found a single trace of human in my house. Nevertheless, I still keep my doors locked or barricaded with furniture. I don't care if I'm being paranoid. I'm not risking what could happen if something did get in. This isn't a very long story, but it's one I'd like to share because it confirmed my lifelong belief in spirits and the paranormal. Just some months ago, I was with my boyfriend who is also interested in the occult, and we decided to use a Ouija board just to see what might come up. It started off with the general questions, and we were getting feedback very quickly. I'm a believer, but I'm also a skeptic. I'd be upset if my partner was trolling me in that way, so I made sure that he wasn't. Anyway, I can't remember what led to this, but at some point, whatever spirit we were in contact with mentioned wanting to speak to my boyfriend directly. So I asked, "What about him?" Because my boyfriend didn't answer, and the spirit yelled out, "Cheat." I was a little confused. Jokingly, I asked, "Cheating with who?" As I teased him for the spirit, implying he's cheating on me. The board then spelled out the name of the woman, who I didn't know at the time. My boyfriend's face went white, and he explained that this was the name of his ex. I had a very bad feeling, and looking back, I should have left him then, because it was true, and he had been sleeping with her for a while. I found out later. Another thing, Spirit also spelled out that I was pregnant with a girl at the time. I was, but I didn't know. Since things are somewhat normal again, I've been allowing my 12-year-old son to stay at his grandmother's house once a week. About a month ago, she moved to a new house. I'll be honest, I hate that house. It feels weird and depressing. Also, I always get super sleepy when I'm there. I'll start yawning, my eyes will get tired, and start closing. I didn't feel comfortable leaving my kid there the first night he stayed, but he's really close to her and waiting 2 years to stay with her again. Yesterday, we went to visit, and my son asked to sleep over again, and this time, my 2 other kids also wanted to stay. My husband is on a business trip and I didn't like staying home alone, so I decided to stay as well. I wish I hadn't. At 3 a.m., he started shaking me and trying to wake me up. I had so much trouble waking up. It's as if I had taken something to sleep. I managed to open my eyes a bit, and he kept pointing at the door. I could hear the door handle jiggling and the sound of it opening. Then the door started moving. It stopped until it was wide open. There was no one there. I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary other than the door opening by itself. My son didn't look scared. He went back to sleep right after without saying a word. My other kids didn't wake up at all. I couldn't stay awake. My eyes couldn't even stay open. I felt a bit scared. I was so sleepy, and I felt so heavy. This morning, while having breakfast, I told my mother-in-law about it. She got a bit serious and told me it has been happening since the night she moved in. It happens only with the bedroom doors. It's a 3-bedroom house, and all the doors are open at 3 a.m. She's thinking about getting a priest to bless the house. I honestly don't know if that'll help or what could help. In the meantime, I'm not letting my kids stay over there again. Not until that stops or she moves. Years ago, I was going for a walk with my dog through the fields near my house. It was early afternoon. On our left side were open fields. On the right, a big area of bushes that grow alongside the path. For about 200 meters or so, we live in a pretty rural area. I became aware of 2 people seemingly walking right towards me. They appeared to wear pitch black clothing, pushing an equally black stroller, because I didn't want my dog running into them, even if he is pretty friendly to strangers on a daily basis. I called him to put him on a leash, especially if a baby is involved. As he came back, after a couple seconds of me calling him, he seemed to show a lot of interest in the 2 individuals approaching us, but was pretty nervous simultaneously. I took a bit of time to calm him, putting him on the side where the bushes were. He didn't seem to calm down or even focus on the treats I tried to give him, but continued to bark in the direction of the 2 strangers. I was close to give up trying to calm him and prepared to walk the opposite direction of where we were headed. So, I looked how far the strangers have come. I saw them a couple of meters away, maybe 300, missing the stroller. That was the first time a weird feeling hit me, so I started continuing to walk back the way I was. After a couple meters and seconds, I looked back again, where I could see 3 creatures now. 2 tall ones, 1 small, all of them in black. Still, at this point, I only felt a sudden fear for this group of people, and so did my dog. He wasn't interested to walk towards them, but pulled the leash in any direction away from the group. After another couple minutes of walking, I turned around again, and all of the creatures were nowhere to be found. This experience left me with nothing but an eerie feeling. But I wonder what I saw on this day still. I thought of them to be shadow people because of their humanoid features and black appearance. I wasn't able to detect facial features as well, but I don't know if it is due to the distance we kept to them. I also tried to explain their disappearance by thinking they could run into bushes on the right, but the whole shape-shifting thing they had going on makes no sense to me. I would be glad if someone more experienced with such things could help. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If your story was told, I'm glad I'm the one who could tell it. I appreciate all the love and support. I hope you enjoyed today's stories as much as I did reading them.